Hello everyone, this is Chris Jamel at Exciton Interactive, and by the time that we're done with this video, our interface here will look exactly the same as it did last time. It's almost like we didn't do any work here, but in fact what will have happened here is we will have married up Angular forms. So we'll have the input that we've created in our basic example will now be contained within Angular's form group. So we'll have everything connected, wired up behind the scenes to start doing, of course, change detection, validation, all that kind of stuff. Alright, if you remember where we left off last time, we had just created our first input, this exe input, and we've got it so that it's contained within our form group component. And what we need to do or start with is to have access to all of these inputs that may be inside of our group within the form group component. So let's go into the form group. And actually, first thing that we're going to start with is I mentioned a little bit about this naming with this little T to tell me that's a template. I actually just want that T on whatever is being exposed to the template, which is in this case this get for this T group. So we're just going to rename the underscore T group to just underscore group. All right, so we're good to go there. So like I said, we need access to our inputs that are within our form group. If we look at the form group component.pug file, of course, the inputs are being included through this ng content tag. So that means that all the inputs are content children. So we'll come up here and import content children, and we'll also import query list. We'll see here in a second. So what I want then is to put in here, so content children, and again, forgotten an import here. Actually, we'll do it from the core, so it's exe form control. So it's a content children of type exe form control, and I call them private read-only form controls, and that's of type, just backwards because the autocomplete doesn't help me if I work the other way. So it's a query list of exe form control. Of course, it starts off null. Perfect. And so I've already renamed everything. Let's go ahead and why are we? It does have an exported member. Okay. Why? Just who knows why we had an error there. But let's go back here and refresh. So in my defense, I was aware of something we were doing at the time. I thought, it upgraded to this new version of Angular. Maybe they'd done some magic with the injector and we didn't have to worry about this problem. And, maybe it's smarter. I wasn't quite as dumb. But so we have this error, can't construct a query for the property underscore form controls since the query selector wasn't defined. Hard really know what's going on there, but it's basically a circular reference problem. So what we're going to do is close this stuff for a second. We're going to the core. So our problem revolves around from having these export statements here. For now, I'm just going to delete all of these. This one, the form group component one, although I'm going to remove from here, we're going to move it down to the index. So now we have the exe form group component within the index. Go ahead and save that, and we have to go into controls folder, so the exe form control. Of course, there's no reference to this anymore. We'll just do the actual form itself. So exe control, bring that in. We also need to fix the input. So on input, all we need to do exe form control. So that's good. And last but not least, the exe form group. Instead of having it from the core over there, what we'll do is import And where is we on XC form control, and that's from control/XC form control. So now we have that. We can get rid of that. Perfect, perfect, and perfect. So now we'll save, refresh. Errors are gone, no more circular references. Okay, so now let's see if we have access to our form controls. So we'll just come down in this ng after view init, console log this dot form controls, save that, back to the browser. We have a query list. But you can see there, query list has an array of 0, length 0, so there are no elements in our query list. And that problem is resulting from the fact that we're looking for form control, but what we have in there is actually an XC input component. So we need to deal with that, and that's a little bit of an inheritance thing going on. So if we go back into the XC input component class here, like I said, we need to deal with this inheritance thing. So what we'll do is go up into our component definition. We are going to now add in the providers. Providers is an array. I'm going to put an object in here. That object is going to contain a provide property. XC, I'm going to provide the XC form control. And we'll say use existing. Use existing is going to take a reference to something we didn't import yet. So out of Angular core, we need the forward ref. So we take forward ref, and we pass, it's a function, pass in this arrow, and then it's going to, I need all that, I just need the XC input component. So it'll return the XC input component, save that, back to our browser, check our query list, has an array of length 1, has our input. So now we are good to go there. Let's go ahead and close those. All right, so now if we've done any work with the Angular forms before in this reactive forms module, the way that we match up a form control with the form group is through a directive that's called the form control name directive. And of course then we need a name for our controls. And so then every form control is going to need a name. So we're going to go into the XC form control.ts class. We want to make sure that we have a name specified for our controls. So we're going to import from and forms.core. Of course, we want to import our throw missing input error. And now that I'm thinking about it, since we're going to be using an input from the user, we need to import, we'll just do it now, input from Angular /core. So now we have input. Come down here, input, it's going to be called name, private read only name, it's a string, surprise, surprise, null to start with. So we're going to, get that name. We're going to end up getting that name internally and dealing with it there. So let's do it this way. So we'll say private get name. The reason why we want to do that is so that we can do the throw missing input, pass in name. You must specify the name. And the example that we're going to give is just name equals name. Should be fixed. Throw missing input error. What are you complaining about? Oh, tag name. Forgot the tag name. So we're in the base class, the XC form control class. We're going to make sure that everything that inherits from this has a tag name property on it. Let's just put tag name for now and get our error. Come down here, like I said, we want to make sure that they all have it. So that protected abstract get tag name, whoops, which returns a name, or returns a string. And while we're at it, like I said, we're going to need access to this name, and we're going to get it within the probably don't need the extra one there, but whatever. So we'll say tname, and I see a mistake already up there. So what we need, actually return something in our get. So return this .name. Probably, since it's the only thing that we need access to at the moment, we might need it later on. We'll leave it. So tname gives us to the template. So go ahead and save that. Of course, we have an error now. So the XE inputs doesn't have the tag name. We might fix this later on. There's a more robust way of getting the, basically what I mean by tag name is the selector up there. We can get a hold of that, but for now we'll just say XE input, save that. Now we won't have any errors because there's nothing asking for that at the moment, but while we're at it, we'll go into the basic example component pug. Since we have the, we're instantiating an XE input here, we're going to give it a name, and we're just going to call it input, save that, perfect. So now we go back to the XE input component pug file, and like I said, the way to marry this thing up with the form group is a directive called form control name. That's equal to our tname. And I've already started to do something very different than what I did in the testing for this. So at this point I was not expecting to go back to my browser and see this. It's complaining, can't find the form group. Well, let's go back here. We know for a fact there is a form group. If we go back to the XE form group component, here's the form group. And if we look in the basic pug, we have our form group input. So this contains the form control name directive. The XE form group contains the form group directive. Problem solved. The problem is that the in between the form control name directive and the form group directive is this ng content, and the form control name directive just goes up the tree searching for this form group directive. Since this ng content is in the way, it can't get outside of that, so it can't find the form group. So we have a problem which we'll just fix now. So the fix basically is to include a reference inside of the XE input components template to the form group, so that this directive, when we have it on here, it goes up the tree and it's going to find the form group directive. All right. So since every form control is going to need that, we're back to the XE form control class here. So we need to import, and we're going to import, I think, form group and form control. Yeah. So we'll say form control and form group. That's from Angular/forms. Perfect. So now let's make a little room here. Private underscore group. It's a form group. Starts off null. We'll create a protected form control internal, and that's equal new form control. Since I'm going to need access to the form control within the I've gone all French or something. We're going to need access to the form control within the XE input, text, checkboxes, all that. So we want it to be protected. So that means I, don't want to underscore it. So then I could just name this form control, but I am going to want to have probably access to it outside of the class, and I might want to use form control for the getter there. So we're just going to call it form control internal. All right. So we need access to that form group, as I said, in the template. So let's do private t group and just return this dot underscore group. and we need a way to set that. So let's just come down here. I guess we'll go to the bottom, say public set group, and the value. So we'll get a form group. So the first thing that we're going to do then, once we get that form group, was I say value.add control. We're going to add the name, and then form control internal, and then we'll say this.group equals value. Perfect. So now we go to the XE input component pug, and we want to have, again, what we want is to say form group, and that equals T group. Now we'll still have a problem with this because of, when things are created, versus, the content created versus the view, blah, blah, blah. So what we're going to do is just say here, we're going to use ngIf. And so if there is a T group, then we'll have our component or this whole thing within our DOM. If not, it'll be removed. So let's go ahead and close these. Go back to our form group. So we're in here. Should have deleted this already, but let's get rid of that. So we're going to do the form controls. Let's do for each over all of those. And all that we need to do here is to say x.group is equal to this underscore group. Boom. Problem solved. Let's go ahead and go back here. Whoops. Been making an error the whole time. So XE form control. Add Angular forms. Oh. From. Perfect. So I was expecting an error, just not that one. So we come up here and that one I was not expecting. So we've done an error somewhere. Form group, this dot group, form group, form control value dot add control. That seems all good to go. We're just going to make sure everything's all up to date. Refresh that. And this dot update tree validity is not a function. Interesting. So did I make an error in the pug? If T group, form group, T group. Nope, this should be in the form control. We have our T group. Well, this didn't happen the other time I've run through this, so let me go ahead and cut here and figure out what it is, and we'll be right back. All right, what a silly mistake to make. Everybody's probably yelling at the screen. Helps if I have these gets here. So get T group, get T name, save. Great, refresh. Now do we get the error I'm expecting? Yes. So we have an expression changed after it has been checked error. So, change detection error that's running or going on. We're going to deal with this thing here very simply by coming back. So we're in the xeformgroup.component file, and it's happening during this for each here. So what we're going to do is just say set timeout, and pass in this function here. Have it basically done immediately. Do that, put it inside, save it, back to our browser. Perfect. Everything is now up and running. So now we have combined our form group, the form group component, and the input component with Angular's form group and form control. So we have married the two together. Next, we'll do a little formatting of our interface here so that we can see that the inputs are, it's actually married up with the control itself, but we'll leave that for the next video. Thank you for taking the time to watch our video. I know that your time is valuable. If you liked the video, please subscribe to our channel and click the thumbs up button, as well as share the video with your friends. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please leave them in the comments section below. And once again, thank you, and I will talk to you in the next video.